The thing about Butterfly is it is the epitome of opera. No one like Puccini could manipulate the emotional strings of the sound world, of the human heart through the sound world. And nowhere is that more true than in Butterfly. Butterfly is the work that every single company, at least in the United States, if not the world, is wondering now, can we produce this work? Is it right to produce this work? Have we lost this work entirely from the repertoire? The problem with Butterfly is that it is very much a fetishization by an Italian 19th century composer of what he imagined the Orient to be. I say Orient in quotes. It is the ultimate example of Orientalism because it doesn't deal with that Oriental world in isolation. It deals with the clash between a Western world and an Eastern world. Also, the racism of the piece is in the music of the piece. I think Puccini was, as far as was possible for a man in his geography and of his time to be, deeply respectful. And I think he was, in his mind, he was honoring Asian musics as much as he knew them. We know that he had a music box, or he had access to a music box that had the themes which he developed into the main leitmotifs of Butterfly. It does resort to stereotypical Asian pentatonic sounds. This piece starts from scratch in a way. It returns to the source that Puccini based his opera on. He based it on a play by David Belasco. It starts in what we know to be the second act of Butterfly. So Cho-Cho-san and Suzuki, her maid, are already on top of the mountain waiting for Pinkerton's return. And everything we learn about Pinkerton is through memories and flashback. This structure really interested me because I always thought the greatest love story in all of Puccini's operas is actually the relationship between Suzuki and Butterfly, this woman who stands beside her best friend even though she knows her best friend has put all of her existence into a hope which will not come true. And it's one thing to say that, yes, the libretto says she's this victimized 16-year-old girl, but her music is of a terrifying force. You start to feel that this woman could be of any age, and whatever she experienced or thought she experienced, we have no idea as to whether that's true or not. All we know is that her entire existence has whittled down to a single fiber, a single hope that she must cling to with such terrifying force because she would cease to exist if it were to unravel. The version we'll do is about 75 minutes. Emotionally, I would say more intense than Puccini's opera because the role of Butterfly, almost all of that role is intact. It's just all sung in 75 minutes. It's just the four principal characters, and really it's just the two real characters, Suzuki and Butterfly, and the fantasy of Sharpless and Pinkerton. So what will be familiar is the beloved score, and it's all there. What will be new is the order in which it's placed, and the context that the whole thing could be imagined. And it's important to me to give it a new musical form that would make it feel like we're really tearing the piece apart and trying to create something new with it. Is done with piano, but what we call prepared piano, which means things are either placed in the strings, or the piano can be played inside, it can be strummed, it can be played with dulcimer hammers. So the piano becomes a sort of percussion orchestra and create a whole world of sounds and atmospheres with just the one instrument. We haven't changed notes. Now the fact that we're using prepared piano and in the piano playing will change the sound world. It was important to me not to have the American national anthem in the piece, which comes as a leitmotif brilliantly. Puccini uses it brilliantly, but it didn't play into our part. And while I didn't excise the piece of all the pentatonicism, I don't know if that's a word, but it should be, I did try to avoid some of the more obvious uses of Asian music and tried to maintain those parts of music that we know Puccini got from a real source. So the producer side of me knows that the best thing for a company that wants to be at the forefront of making opera vital again to a new audience needs to make performing in the language of the audience of paramount importance. Wanting to do a large number of performances of Butterfly and knowing that it was impossible to do that with one cast because Butterfly is such a difficult sing, particularly for the soprano and the tenor, that we would have to have two casts. That provided the opportunity to give both options to our audiences. We have some audiences who really only want to see it in Italian. We have some audiences who, hopefully newer audiences, that want to experience it as a piece of theater and have the immediacy of their own language. And I really hope we have audiences that will want to see both and will want to experience firsthand what the difference is between original language and native language. I did do the translation myself. I made it specific to this production. I really wanted this piece to be as free of any reference to geography as possible, for it to exist in a psychological space. And to be honest, in the Italian, I also changed the Italian to take away those specific references to time and place. So our set for the piece is a white box, which in theater we often talk about the black box and having a black box theater. We turn the theater into a white box, which means the floor, the walls, everything is made of white. So I wanted to be able to use a lot of shadow and in that way make a bow towards a certain type of Asian theater style, though not Japanese, without completely embracing an Asiatic quality to the theater. So the white in our production is made of paper screens, like many productions of Butterfly actually, but the idea is that as her fantasy unwinds, she rips away the pieces of her world, of her imagined psychological world, until the theater's bare, until we see the bare bones of the theater and the psychological space that we've existed in has been torn away. And this production strips away everything except for the core emotional experience of Puccini's opera. In that way, I hope it tells us that there is life that's possible in the canon if we're willing to get to the bottom of it. Producing Butterfly is, of course, the work of a large company usually. It's almost subversive for us to be producing Butterfly. And I think it's really exciting for in-series to be saying, no, we can do it, and we can do it in a way no one else can do it, and to stand up and defend the canon through saying, first we have to tear it apart, and in putting it back together, we can give these works new life, and Butterfly is just the beginning of that process.